Hey, what's up, guys? All right, Codename Boris here. I'm going to give you guys a quick, high level how to set up your USB Blue Yeti microphone. So this is a very nice, very powerful, but pretty decently mid-range microphone that I like using a lot better than just a regular headset microphone. All right, so the first thing that you're going to want to do when you set this up is make sure that you're selecting the right recording mode. There's a recording mode section on the back. There's 4 modes to choose from: stereo, cardioid, and then the other two. I recommend using cardioid, the one that looks like Pac-Man, because that one it captures sound volume and recording from directly in front of it in one direction. And that's going to be the most consistent if you're doing voiceover, uh, let's play, or podcast type recordings. The next thing that I do is make sure on the back there's a gain knob. Make sure to set the gain knob as far to the minimum, to the lowest, as you can. If you're not sure which way it is, you can always go to listen, and when you're recording, and listen when you select it and move it up and down. But it's going to be all the way to the right. That's going to turn that down. Make sure that your gain volume is down at the lowest. And for me, I do that because I live in a noisy environment. I've got ceiling fans and air conditioner and my mechanical keyboard. It goes click, click, click. I don't like to pick up that noise if possible. And cats and other things. So I put that down as much as possible already. All right, the next thing is, let's see. All right, so you're going to select your volume settings. So you're going to go down to your sound icon in your system tray, open up your recording devices. Take a look at this here. All right, so recording devices, microphone. What you're going to do is configure your properties. If you wanted to listen to it, you could select listen to the device. Under levels, I have mine at 70, my volume at 70. Again, it's a noisy environment, so I try to have the volume a little bit lower. If it's too quiet, you can always turn this up, but this microphone is very powerful. Will pick up a lot of things that you wouldn't realize. So you can play around with this, but I try to keep mine between 60 and 80. Too high is going to pick up a lot of things. It's going to be pretty loud. So I keep that one at about 70. And then the other thing that's important is go to the advanced tab. You go to the audio mode. I think by default it's typically at 44,100 hertz. I always select 48,000 hertz for everything audio that I do. And then it's really important that once you select one, you have to stay consistent. So all your other items and things, devices or software that you use, you always have to make sure to select the same. So with that, what we can also look at is how to configure your noise gate and other settings within your microphone. So in OBS Studio, we're using OBS Studio multi-platform here. What you can do is go to the COG settings here, go to filters for your device, and up here you can select filters down here by selecting the plus icon. Up here I've got the ones that I'm using already. So you add your noise gate filter, and what a noise gate filter does is sets a minimum and a maximum for volume for the microphone to begin recording. So you've got a closed threshold and an open threshold, and you usually want these to be about 6 to 10 decibels apart. So my closed threshold will usually be lower than your open threshold. So mine's at minus 40 decibels. My open threshold is at minus 30. And the reason why this is higher than the closed threshold is that as soon as you start talking and reach that noise, that minimum noise volume to pick up the microphone, if you start to trail off, but you're not finished talking, or there's a quick break, you don't want the microphone to immediately shut off. And so that's why the closed threshold is about 10 decibels lower than the open threshold. Select the attack time, milliseconds to 25, 200 on the hold time, and 150 on release time. The other thing that I have is a noise suppression filter. You can go down to the plus icon, add noise suppression here. And I selected minus 30 decibels. Again, I live in a noisy environment, so I try to have something that can kind of filter some of the background noise out. This is a newer feature. These sound filters are kind of a newer features. Noise gate's been around forever in OBS, but the noise suppression and compressor for OBS Studio are much newer features, so there's a lot more flexibility that you got, but you definitely need to play around with this some more. I have a compressor on here. I haven't officially set it up yet, but a compressor is something that will balance out the highs and the lows volume-wise of your voice or your recording, so that the noise volume is very consistent. So it's something that really helps a lot if you're doing podcasts or anything else that you're recording your voice on. You can yell and it'll keep it down. You can talk quiet and it'll kind of boost it up. But this is a lot more complicated, and I still have got some time to play around with this. But we could probably do another video on that later. Another thing to keep in mind, you've got in OBS your microphone settings compared to your desktop audio. Depending on the games that you play and depending on certain things that you're doing, if you're streaming, is you're going to want typically your microphone to be up to the maximum. And you see where I'm talking in this green bar is coming up. It's about in the middle. It doesn't really get up too much to the high end. And that's when you know that, this is at a good volume. It's picking up very well. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that if you're playing a game or something you're talking over, let's say your desktop audio is coming through this, you're going to typically want that to be lower, depending on what you're playing. And I usually configure the audio settings of the game within the game itself, but anywhere from 5 to 10 decibels lower than your microphone is a good rough estimate. That's something to also keep in mind. And you can play around with this. You can play with this real time while you're streaming as well. Adjust something up or down if something's too loud or not loud enough. So that's basically it as far as configuring your sound and audio settings. One thing that I've learned in OBS is that if you're using a Blue Yeti microphone and you have any of these filters that are added on, you may encounter a slight lag or a slight delay from the recording for it going through OBS. And how you get around that is you go into Edit, Advanced Audio Properties, and you put in a sync offset. So sync offset will put in plus or minus. You can do plus if it's ahead or minus if it's not. A sync offset in milliseconds will correct any of that variance that you're seeing. You can typically do 150 to 200 milliseconds to start and see where it goes. If it's really, really, really laggy, if you notice it, you can do 500 milliseconds or more, but you shouldn't have to go over 500 milliseconds. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So hopefully you guys found this useful. If you have any other questions on how to set this up, or as you're going through how to maybe get better sound quality out of your microphone, let me know. Thanks, guys.